those of you who may not know me, I am Don Maston. I'm president of the National Rural Letter Carriers Association. I'd like to begin by introducing the members of the NRLCA bargaining team seated at the table alongside me. I'll introduce the individuals to my right first. Sitting next to me is our Executive Vice President, Patrick Pitts from Washington. Next to Patrick is our Secretary Treasurer, Tommy Turner from Virginia. We then have Director of Steward Operations, Shirley Bapa from Arkansas. And sitting to Shirley's right are Executive Committeeman Jeanette Dwyer from North Carolina and Executive Committeeman John Adams from West Virginia. To my left is Director of Labor Relations Bridget Boziak from Michigan, and sitting next to Bridget is Michael Gann, our General Counsel. To Michael's left is Chairman of the Executive Committeeman Nikki Phillips from Georgia, and to his left is Executive Committeeman Herbie Ricketts from Missouri. I've been involved in contract negotiations with the Postal Service since 2008. I've seen the downside for both parties when we cannot reach agreement. We're forced to submit our issues to interest arbitration rather than working them out ourselves, and this never works out for either party. In the last two rounds of collective bargaining, both in 2018 and 2021, we successfully achieved agreements that were ultimately ratified by our membership. Agreements that address not only the challenges facing the Postal Service at those times, along with the need to improve wages and working conditions for rural letter carriers, a dedicated workforce without whom the Postal Service would not be able to carry out its universal public service mandate. Lewis. As we begin this round of negotiations, it is not lost on the NRLCA that your predecessors believed shrinking was the only way to survive, pushing agendas that included 5-day delivery and other measures that would have negatively impacted the Postal Service. We appreciate your vision and what you and your team bring to your plan to grow the business and make the Postal Service more relevant to the American public, not less. 6- and 7-day delivery is what the public expects, and we commend you for leading that charge. The NRLCA comes to the table this morning on behalf of roughly 130,000 Roarcraft employees who are hopeful that we will once again achieve a mutually agreed to and mutually beneficial contract. However, we must recognize that we are negotiating in a different world now. There are many issues before us, some are new and some are old, but all require solutions above and beyond the band-aids of the past. It would be an understatement to say that a lot has changed since the last time we were here at Postal Headquarters to open collective bargaining. These negotiations are taking place in the wake of an unprecedented global pandemic, during which rural letter carriers and their postal brothers and sisters played a vital role in the nation's critical response. As essential workers that provided the lifeline of medicine, food, and other home essentials to millions of Americans sheltering in place, tens of thousands of postal employees were quarantined, and sadly, some lost their lives. We will never forget the PPE, the sanitizer, the distancing protocols, and frankly, the fear that came with the many unknowns we faced during the pandemic. Employee turnover was high, yet we rallied, and postal workers reliably delivered close to 8 billion parcels in FY 2021 alone, and swiftly delivered more than 730 million test kits to 80 million American households. Undoubtedly, we will face other unknown challenges in the future, and we must ensure a robust, or as the Deliver for America plan puts it, stable and empowered workforce. We are also negotiating at a time when parcel delivery has become the focal point of the Postal Service's business. After the worst of the pandemic was behind us, Americans had grown increasingly reliant on e-commerce. The days of delivering only 6 days a week, or in the case of the Roarcraft, out of your typical sedan, are a fading memory in our rearview mirror. Another significant change is that after years of lobbying efforts by the NRLCA, our sister unions, and efforts by the Postal Service, we finally achieved postal reform, which eliminated the pre-funding mandate. While we recognize the financial challenges ahead, this legislation has saved the Postal Service billions. Rural letter carriers lobbied their representatives on Capitol Hill, wrote letters to the editor and educated the public about postal reform. There is no doubt that these efforts played a major role in the success, and rural letter carriers should also benefit from those efforts. And we continue to support additional legislation to strengthen the Postal Service going forward. On top of these changes, you're familiar with the engineered compensation system for rural letter carriers known as RX. There were initial missteps and delays, but the parties have experienced the most significant and comprehensive engineered compensation system in history. No longer do we have to argue about the standards that make up rural letter carriers' salaries. No longer will we have to spend hours debating over-under statistics or whether our pay system is an incentive system or what weeks of the year are most appropriate for the scheduling of a mail count. We have successfully achieved an objectively fair system of evaluating rural routes while maintaining rural delivery as the most effective mode of delivery in the Postal Service. Please do not underestimate the significance of this pay change to rural carriers. The previous system, with its own unique flaws, was in place longer than any of us have been around. The process to update it started with an arbitrated ruling in 2012, that was more than a decade ago, and the change has created anxiety for many rural carriers. Our new system requires continued transparency and constant maintenance, and we need a willing partner to ensure that the integrity of RX remains intact. If we are to truly address the Postal Service's modern problems, we're going to have to come to terms with the undisputed truth that the U.S. labor market is not what it used to be. The Postal Service is facing a crisis of manpower that has had a dramatic and harmful impact on our craft and on the Postal Service's ability to meet its obligations. What once made rural letter carrier jobs some of the most attractive jobs in the country, especially in rural areas, no longer works to hire and retain enough quality employees to carry out the Postal Service's mission. As the Delivering for America plan acknowledges, there is an extremely high attrition rate among non-career employees. We must recognize that the Postal Service cannot hire, much less retain, leave replacements at hourly rates below what they can make as cashiers at travel centers or coffee shops. The Postal Service cannot keep RCAs when they are worked to the point of exhaustion without meaningful benefits and time off to recover from the difficult work of delivering parcels 7 days a week, often well into the night. Even regular carriers are leaving the Postal Service at rates that I have not seen in my 34 years as a rural carrier. The Postal Service is experiencing a loss in the retention of regular carriers who are unable to use earned leave despite the requirement a leave replacement be assigned to every route, language that has been in place for decades in our national agreement, and that contractual promise is simply not being met. If we're going to be the mail and parcel delivery company of the future, something I know we have the capacity to become, we need to have the workers to do the work. We need quality jobs. We want people who view the rural carrier job as a career with stable employment that allows them to put their kids through school, buy a home, save for retirement, pay medical bills, put food on the table, have time to refresh and recuperate, having the training necessary to succeed and work in a safe environment. Temporary MOUs and quick fixes of the past addressing hiring and retention have not worked. They don't accomplish this. We know as a fact we continue to experience a revolving door of leave replacements at an alarming rate. Other package carriers and industries have encountered similar issues and are making revolutionary changes to improve wages and working conditions so they can hire and maintain effective workforces. If we don't follow suit, we will be left behind. UPS and the Teamsters negotiated historic wage increases, almost 50% for part-time workers, and eliminating the lowest paid tier of delivery workers. All the manufacturers and the UAW agreed to increase wages between 25% and 160%, with the lowest paid workers getting $40 an hour during the term of the CBA. On top of that, the Big Three increased retirement contributions and provided more paid time off. The parties addressed their problems attracting and retaining temporary workers by converting many to permanent employees and hastening their ability to earn benefits and reach the top wage tier. Healthcare workers, Hollywood writers, actors, directors, and many others have seen similar unprecedented improvements in their wages, access to benefits, and changes to work rules that made their jobs more attractive on all levels, but certainly for entry-level workers. There's no question that we're going to have to follow the lead of these industries if we are to tackle today's challenges. The NRLCA is encouraged and inspired by the Delivering for America plan, and our union has been steadfast in its support for the plan's goals and many of its strategies. The Postal Service's acknowledgement that hiring and retention issues are not just personnel issues, but also affect employees' quality of life and safety and health issues is a step in the right direction. Likewise, we are grateful for your efforts to improve infrastructure and the physical work environment at the SNDC units. But I'm sure you would agree that much as consolidated facilities and updated equipment, bathrooms, break rooms, and work environment for rural carriers, much more needs to be done to live up to the Delivering for America plan's aims and promises. The Postal Service has got to make the same investments in our people. We know that you mean what you say in the Delivering for America plan, that the Postal Service wants to be an employer of choice. That is, people are our greatest asset, and our success depends on investing in their future. But we have a long way to go to make those promises a reality. Promises explicitly listed in the plan, such as cutting non-career employee turnover by half, improving and expediting the hiring process, building and retaining a diverse pipeline of candidates through enhanced employee development, strengthened succession planning, and improved retention strategies, implementing programs that improve non-career employee experience, reducing the overtime demand on employees, achieving predictability and precision, and improving employee engagement and retention. We know that turnover is way too high. We know many of our members are working 12-hour days, 6 or 7 days a week. We know that the hiring process takes too long, and that once hired, RCAs aren't staying and haven't kept up with the demand. This model is unsustainable. Fortunately, these negotiations afford us an opportunity to right the ship and uphold the Postal Service's promises. We want to be your partner in the success of the Postal Service, but there are challenges we must solve in this round of collective bargaining. At the most fundamental level, rural letter carrier wages are miles away from being able to attract and maintain a dedicated, committed, and loyal workforce. We don't need economists and other experts to know that higher wages and better benefits improve hiring and retention. That is a universal truth. The core mission and promises of the Delivering for America plan cannot be met with the current wage and benefit structure. That's why during these negotiations, in addition to significant wage increases, we must address the harm to our craft and the Postal Service caused by the lower salary tables imposed by an arbitrator. We need employees at carrier casing equipment and employees in the delivery vehicles to perform the work. If there are no employees, the work will not be completed. Half measures simply will not build a stable and empowered workforce with the most capable and diverse employees. Combined with increased pay, we must also create more opportunity for creditable service. The non-career workforce needs a quicker path to becoming a career employee. In the Delivering for America plan, you have told us that employees should expect a more stable career path and an organizational structure that provides greater opportunity. And the Postal Service clearly recognizes the need to enable long-term postal careers for employees. And it acknowledged that years of underinvestments in our workforce have taken a toll on non-career employees. It further addresses the difficult truth that for years, attrition rates for non-career employees have been unsustainable and have led to unnecessarily high costs to hire and onboard replacements. Unfortunately, rather than attracting, retaining, and investing in rural letter carriers, we have new employees who are overworked, underpaid, and underappreciated. New hires quickly become aware of the backbreaking work, tense work environment, and low pay. Many leave even before they have completed their probationary period. We must stop the revolving door of new hires and now is our opportunity to reverse this trend. We also need to think creatively about ensuring that our regular carriers have coverage. Are more PTFs the answer? We have, in previous rounds of bargaining, established task forces to deal with our leave replacement challenges. I was on one of those subcommittees, but sadly, no one seemed interested in following through on the many helpful suggestions our labor and management group proposed. That experience necessitates that we need to solve this issue at the bargaining table. Another essential piece of the puzzle requires improving the workplace environment. We need to recognize the mental and emotional toll that understaffing, overscheduling, and bad management imposes, not just on rural letter carriers, but on managers too. Do managers really enjoy denying regular carriers leave or forcing RCAs to carry parts of 2 or 3 routes in a day and working so late that they don't get home until after their children are already sound asleep? Tensions and stress levels are high, and not just during peak season, but in many offices daily. The Delivering for America plan aims to create a stable and empowered workforce marked by opportunity, creation, well-defined career development and growth, including non-career employees, resulting in decreased turnover and a winning culture that prizes diversity, equality, inclusion, and customer service excellence. To achieve this, we need new ideas and enforceable, effective workplace environment policies that result in actual change for repeat management offenders. If we can solve our staffing issues, some of this abuse will likely go away, as I suspect some bad behavior is brought on by the impossible asks made of frontline supervisors to reach unattainable numbers and goals given the short staffing they are left to manage. As rural letter carriers, many of us with decades of experience working for this great institution, always the most trusted in our government, we know the Postal Service has the potential to be the employer of choice again. And we see ourselves as your partner in your aspiration to be the employer you say you want to be. But the Postal Service must be willing to take the bold and historic steps that are necessary to make that aspiration a reality. It begins by improving wages and benefits, offering more opportunities for career employment, providing sufficient training to new employees, continuing to invest in people, tools, and technology, and ensuring a safe and supportive work environment. We have given these issues a lot of thought lately. They keep us up at night. And Lewis, we can't solve these issues without you and your team. We look forward to sharing our ideas and working together for the betterment of the Postal Service and the rural carrier craft alike. Thank you for your vision and your plan and what you have put in motion already. What we strive to achieve in bargaining aligns with your vision. Both parties have a vested interest in the success of the United States Postal Service and for this historic institution to grow and prosper and deliver for America for generations to come. Thank you.